Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Marketing Mondays. It is Monday, July 11th. We're already midway through the year here, and this is Marketing Mondays episode number 60. So this is actually our 60th episode. As always, I'm going to take 1 minute here to get some people pinged into the group, and we will get going momentarily. Thank you guys for tuning in this morning. And I hope that we can bring you some value with the questions we're going to answer. So good morning, Jerry. Good to see you pop in here right away. We've got, as always, Christy, David, good to see you this Monday morning. As always, we have some questions that have come in since the last episode that we can answer. But if you're in here during the episode and you want to ask a question live, just go ahead and put it in the comments and we will get to it. We always give a priority to questions that come in live. So if you have a question that we're not answering, or if you have a clarifying question for something that I have talked about during the episode, go ahead and throw it in the comments and I will make sure I get to it. I can see them all as they come in. So with that, we are going to get going. We try to keep these really tight at about 30 minutes to respect your time on a Monday morning. So we're going to dive right in. We're going to answer as many questions as we can. But please, again, if you're tuning in, feel free to go ahead and put your questions in the comments and I will make sure I get to them. So I had a great question that came in this last week. It said, I've had a company approach me about spending I'm not going to say the amount, but a certain amount per month for SEO to get me at the top of page one. Is this legitimate? And what is all involved with doing that? I think that's a great question because a lot of people ask the question about how do I get to the top of page one? And a lot of times when companies are trying to solicit your business, they may utilize that as part of their sales pitch. Like, hey, we can get you to the top of page one. But what's really involved in getting you to the top of page one, and what is a legitimate process that a marketing company might approach you with versus what is something that might come off as being, I don't want to say a scam, but might not be as legitimate. So first of all, coming up at the top of page one has everything to do with the combination of a lot of things that we've talked about before in this series, but that relate to search engine optimization, or SEO. We're talking about, with regard to this, we're talking about organic results as far as like non-paid. If you want to pay and run Google AdWords, obviously you can come up at the top of page one, but you would be paying to do that. What we're talking about here with regard to this question is non-paid results and coming up to the top of the search results in a non-paid way. There's two places you can come up at the top of the search results. One is going to be just in your regular listing, like, as you search for things on Google, you're going to see the results come up. The other will be what we would call in the map or the map pack or things like that. And you've probably noticed if you search for a local product or service, you will see the map come up and you will see listings under there. Real quick clarification, the standard results that come up on the main page as far as organic results are going to be derived from your website and the SEO associated with your website. The results that come up in that map pack area or the map area with the little pins that show the different locations for localized services, those are going to be derived from your Google business page. So two different things going on here. But if you work both sides of these, they both can result in you having a listing at the top of your page, at the top of a search result page. In an ideal world, you would want to have both an organic result generated from your website and one generated from your Google business page. So you've actually got two listings at the top of the page. So this question, though, I believe is referring primarily to the non-Google business page that's something associated with your website. So here's the thing I would say with regard to that. First of all, any company that promises you a certain time frame that they can get you to the top of page one, that should be an initial red flag, if you will, that should crop up. There's a lot of different variables. We've talked about this in other questions I've answered before, but there's a lot of variables that come into play with regard to who shows up at the top of page one. One may be, how many competitors you have that are vying for those same search terms or keywords or key phrases in your particular marketplace. If there are a lot of competitors, and say some of them have been doing a lot of good things, for a while now, months/years, it's going to take you a while of beginning to do proper SEO to begin to percolate to the top and potentially get above that person. If you could do that, like I said, it's not a static environment. They're not set from a standpoint of, as you're making changes, no other changes are being made. They could have somebody working on their SEO as well. So that's going to have an impact on how quickly you can come up to the top of search results. The other thing is, what exactly, how much. The first part of that is how much competition and what they're doing. The second part of that is like, what activities are you actually doing? Obviously, there's your core foundational SEO on your website. There's building appropriate backlinks that can come back to your website. There's doing things with regard to, improving the functionality of your website that might not have anything to do specifically. You might not think of it as SEO, but increasing the speed of your website, the user experience of your website. Google takes all of these things into account when they figure out who is going to go to who they're going to place at the top, including things like you might not think about, like a bounce rate. What is bounce rate? Let me just talk about that really quickly. And I apologize, I'm going down so many rabbit trails, but this is a very complex topic, and it can't just be answered really quickly with a soundbite. So a bounce rate would mean somebody comes to your website, they arrive at your website, and they leave from the same page that they arrived at. So they click on something, they arrive at your website. Maybe they determine they've gotten the information they needed. Maybe they've determined that this isn't what they're looking for. But the long and short of it is, bounce rate is a percentage of people that come into your website and then, without navigating to any other pages on your website, they leave again. That's what's called a bounce. So Google looks at that rate because what Google's trying to do, make no mistake about it, the business that Google is in is when somebody types something into Google searching for a particular result, Google's in the business of percolating a list of results that are trying to give you the best answers or the best results for what you're looking for. So if they put your website in a listing at the top of that, and a lot of people are clicking on it for a particular search or key phrase or keyword and then leaving again, that's one indication Google might look at that this is a bad result. Like, this is something when people get there, they're not finding what they're looking for, so they're leaving. Google's going to look at that as a potential indication that maybe I shouldn't put this result high in the search results because people seem to not be getting the information they came looking for. So that's one of those things with regard to a technical aspect that Google's going to look at. So if you use, like, where that would come into play is if you use a lot of techniques to try to, like, game the system with Google and utilize a lot of different things to try to get better search results. But when people arrive at your page, they don't find what they're looking for. You really want to, if you're going to do things, and I'll give you an example. We have some clients that really want to have better exposure in other markets. So what I recommend is that they actually build out a page on their website specific to that market and then do the SEO around that market. But when somebody clicks on that, if you're successful in getting your page to show up high in the search results, when somebody clicks on that, they're going to arrive at a page that talks about their product and or service in that particular market. So it's going to seem like a relevant result, and it's probably not going to get bounced out of. They may spend more time. But if somebody arrives, they quickly determine this isn't what they're looking for and leave again, Google's going to view that as being a negative metric, and they're going to probably start downplaying your website as a result of that. So back to the original question, and I apologize. I know I got off on a lot of tangents there. But the original question was, a company approached me about spending a certain amount of dollars per month to get SEO results to get to the top of page one. The short answer is no reputable company is going to guarantee you top of page one results at a certain time period because it's almost impossible to predict how the Google algorithm is going to play, what your competition is going to be doing at the same time while you're doing it. What a lot of these companies do, I hate to say, is They tell you it's going to take 6 months. In the meantime, they collect a monthly fee for 6 months. And then when you don't show up at the top of page 1, you get disgruntled with the results and you cancel the service. But in the meantime, they've collected 6 months worth of premium from you. And then they've already, in the meantime, brought on a bunch of new clients, and it's a numbers game. And unfortunately, we see that it happen in a lot of situations. I'm not pointing the finger at any particular companies at all, but just be careful. A good company. So what should a company that's doing good SEO, what should that look like? A company that's doing good SEO should be following best standard practices that Google lays out. They don't tell you exactly every element of the algorithm, but they do tell you what the best standard practices are. What I always try to tell people is do some searches of relevant keywords or key phrases for your company in your particular marketplace that you want to rank better for before any service starts, before anybody starts doing anything. Do a search with an incognito browser. I'm not going to go into right now how to get to an incognito browser. Just Google how to open up an incognito browser. It's really easy to do. What that essentially allows you to do is do searches in a browser that have no history, no cache, nothing like that, so that you can get a true result. Find out where your company's coming up. Find out if you're coming up at the middle of page 2 or the end of page 1 or wherever that may be. Take notes of, hey, here's the 10 things I'm tracking, and here's where we currently show up before any work's being done. Then probably every 3 weeks to 4 weeks, I would check those 10 keywords again with an incognito browser so that you're getting a true result. What you should start to see if a company's begun doing SEO work to improve your SEO positioning is you should be able to start to see some improvement. Like if you were on the middle of page 2, the first thing I said, maybe after 30 days, you show up at the top of page 2. Maybe you show up at the bottom of page 1. Now, that's not a guarantee that you're going to just continue at that same rate all the way to the top of page 1. Maybe there's 5 competitors in your marketplace that are doing a really good job with SEO, and you're going to get up to position 6, and it's going to be a real dogfight to get any higher than position 6 in SEO because you have 5 competitors that are doing a really good job as well. But what you should see is you should be able to see an improvement from where you started to where you're going. Now, again, that's not a guarantee of how quickly you're going to become in position 1 because there's no way to guarantee that. But it's a way for you to check that the company that you're paying money to is at least doing something to help you begin to get better results. So I really hope that helps. Again, it's a very complicated topic, and I've almost chewed up half of our time today talking about it, but I think it's a really important topic, and I think it's a topic that people often get taken advantage of because they hear the words SEO and they want to come up at the top of page 1, but they really don't know how all that works, and they can get easily sucked into a bad situation paying a company money that's really not doing them a whole lot of favors. So hopefully that helps. If you have any follow-up questions, please, by all means, ask them. I'd be happy to answer because I know that was a lot that I just threw out at you. So let me jump in. Let me see if there's any questions. I don't see any. So I'm going to jump into the next question. Okay. I know that I need a website, but I don't have $3,000 to spend on one right now. I'm assuming he's saying that number because a standard like 10-page website, our company, that's about exactly what we charge for a fully done website with SEO. I'm looking at a company that builds a site and charges X number of dollars a month for that site. Thoughts on this? Okay. We've talked about this before as well. So there are a couple different ways you can get a site. And I've had a lot of people talk to us about this because we really want to help people if they're in that need to get a website. And I do understand that, some people just don't have the cash to do it. However, be wary of somebody that says, hey, we're going to build you a website for $99 a month. We'll build the website. We'll take it live. We'll do all this stuff like that. And all you got to do is pay us $99 a month. We've talked on this show before about building a house on someone else's property. This is exactly what I'm talking about. When you get into those contracts, in some cases, they'll even procure a URL for you or a domain name. So xyz.com, like your company name. What they're doing, though, is they're handcuffing you into their service. So what they do is they build you a very bare bones, typically a very, a basic type of website that maybe they customize with some of your stuff, but it's a website they've built many, many times before. So they're just customizing it to look a little bit more like your company and get your stuff in there, but they want to get it launched as quickly as possible. And what they do, though, is they're charging you $99 a month, which is for hosting that website, which is on their hosting platforms. They may have even grabbed a domain name for you, but the bad part about that is they may own your domain name and they may be unwilling to give it up to you at some point in the future. And number two, the minute you stop paying them the $99 a month, that website goes away. So let's say that you start down this process, and unfortunately, we've had clients that have went down this process and paid a monthly amount for years and years and still don't own anything. The minute that they say, hey, I don't want to pay the monthly fee anymore, they lose everything. So what you've basically done by entering into a contract like that is you've begun to build your house on somebody else's piece of property, which is fine as long as you want to live in that house and they're okay with you living on that property. But the bad part about that is you don't own anything. At any point in time, if you decide you don't want to pay that monthly fee, you walk away with nothing. You don't walk away with your website. Sometimes you don't even walk away with your domain name if you had them procure your domain name, and the hosting goes away. Basically, your entire thing goes dark and you have to start again from scratch. What I would say in those situations is you really have to kind of figure out what you can do and do something that's going to be on a platform that you own. We've run into this, as I mentioned, with clients. So we've come up with a couple of different options. One's called like a slimline website, which is very few pages of a website, but allows you to get a website that's a domain that you own, a couple of pages that are properly SEO'd and hosted so that you actually own it. And then that's built on a foundation that you can continue to build from there. So as your budget allows, you can take that slimline website, which is just roughly, if a company's going to build you something like that, probably in the $1,000 to $1,200 range, which is a little bit easier to swallow than maybe $3,000 right out of the gate, but built on a foundation to where over time you can continue to add pages and you may get to that $3,000 website, but you've done it over time as your budget is allowed. But it's built on a foundation that you own and that you can continue to build and improve over time. I would recommend that you enter into a relationship like that with a company, whether it be, I'm not trying to sell you on doing it with us. I'm talking about that's what a relationship I would like to see somebody get into with any company versus this X number of dollars a month and you never own anything. Again, totally sensitive to the fact that not everybody has the money, but there's other ways you can go about it that end up with you having a site that you actually own versus one that somebody else owns, and they've got you handcuffed into a fee structure that you may not be happy with. Or let's just say the company goes out of business. They go out of business and they go away. You may lose everything that maybe you would have been willing to continue to pay the monthly fee, but they go out of business and go away and your website goes dark with them and you're back at square one. So just make sure you own your assets, whether it's your website, whether it's your domain name, things like that. It's very important that you own that. That's an asset of your business, and it's very important that you own that. So let me see if anybody, Carlos says you can't afford to not have a website. I agree with you, Carlos. I'm just trying to give people some options that, if they maybe are in a cash situation where they can't afford it, there's situations, there's other ways to go about it. Even if you're in a tight situation, just please don't go about it with, trying to build on somebody else's property. That's the main thing I wanted to get across. So if you have any questions about that, anybody, let me know. And we will keep moving along. We've got about 10 minutes, so try to get as many of these questions. How quickly do I need to respond to messages on Facebook Messenger if I run ads with a message conversion? Great question. We have worked with a lot of clients and can get a lot of messages via DM. If you use Facebook Messenger or Facebook ads properly and use a message conversion and it's targeted properly, you can generate a lot of DMs. People spend a lot of time on the Facebook and Instagram platforms. So if you run those ads properly and people have the ability to ask you a question or to ask a price or anything like that directly in the app, it's going to increase your volume. What I would say, you need to really understand how that's done and who's going to get those messages and have a game plan in place for your business, because the expectation that people have when you run ads that say send message or something like that, or get quote or something like that, and it sends them right to a message type thing, is that there's going to be a fairly responsive reply to them. And by that, I mean, it doesn't need to be within 3 minutes or something like that, but it also shouldn't be, 10 hours later. It should be, relatively quickly. I would say, if you're asking me for a rule of thumb, I would say respond back within 30 to 60 minutes to any DMs that come in. So if you can't do that, if you don't have the systems or the personnel in place to be able to be watching that and responding, I actually think you could be spending a lot of money to generate messages that end up not converting really well because they're getting cold. Think of it, the minute that message comes in, it's as hot as it's ever going to be. That lead is as hot as it's ever going to be the minute that it comes in. With every passing minute that goes by that you don't respond to it, it starts cooling down. So essentially, if you can't respond for 4 hours, that lead is a lot cooler than it was the minute that they put it in. If you respond in 10 minutes, it's still really hot. If you respond in 30 minutes, it's still pretty warm, but it's a little bit cooler. So if you're going to run meta ads and drive people to send you a message as the conversion that you're going for, have the system in place to respond as quickly as possible. And again, that doesn't mean you have to do it in 3 minutes, but I can guarantee you, if you could do it within 10 minutes to 30 minutes, your conversion on those leads is going to be a whole lot better than it's going to be if you wait 3 hours to respond to them. So just be conscious. It's a great way to generate leads. I have a lot of clients that get a lot of success through messengers or through messages using that as their conversion and do really well with it. But they do have a system in place to make sure that they're responding in a timely manner. And hopefully that helps. I will tell you that if it's beyond probably 5 to 6 hours, you've probably lost the opportunity. Your conversion on those that are over 5 to 6 hours old is probably going to be extremely low. So just keep that in mind. Let me see. Should I run my ads all day or just during specific hours? Great question. And this could apply to both Google and social media ads. So do you run your ads all day? Like, do you put your budget out there and put dates that you want to run your ads and just let the algorithm figure out when to place them and things like that and where you're at and run them all day? Or do you say, hey, I'm only open from 8 to 5 and I only want to run my ads during hours that I'm open? Again, the conversion you have is important here, because if you have a conversion for messages and you're only going to answer those messages from 8 to 5, then you probably want to limit the hours that ad's active to the hours that you're going to respond to the DMs. However, if it's more like a link click or something else, that it's not necessarily that you're going to have to respond to it in a timely manner like that, my preference is to let the ads run all day, because we really don't have any idea when people might have a moment to look at that ad or when they do a search. I always try to like step back and look at my own family's behavior as an example of like maybe it's wrong to do this, but maybe what an average family would do. And I think there's a lot of internet searching and social media use that happens at 9 o'clock at night when you got the TV remote in one hand and maybe a phone in the other. So if you turn off your ads at 5 o'clock, that person's been busy at work or school or something else all day long. And the first time they have a chance to really scroll social media or search for something online is at night when they're winding down from the day. Your ads completely miss that person because you're running your ads in the heart of the day. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be running your ads at the heart of the day. It just means understand that if you run your ads at the certain part of the day and then turn them off after work hours, there's going to be a lot of people that you miss that are doing their time, their online time after work hours. So my feeling has always been, because we have no idea of understanding when people may want to consume or search or things like that, that you're always better to run your ads that are open 24/7. Maybe somebody can't sleep at night and they're doing some internet research on a product or service they've been looking for, and they're doing it at 2 a.m. because they can't sleep. If your ads aren't running and a competitor's ads are running, they're going to see the competitor's ads and they're not going to see your ads. Even though you're running them starting at 8 o'clock the next morning, they're never going to see it. So my preference, that's all it is. I mean, there's no exact science to this. I mean, that's part of marketing. It's just like watching what happens and coming up with your best guesses of what you should do. But our feeling internally at iMagnet is leave your ads running 24/7. So the only thing I would say is, again, if you're going to use a conversion metric like messages and you're only going to watch those messages for a certain number of hours, then I would limit the hours that you're running the ads to the hours that you're willing to pay attention to the messages that are coming in. So hopefully that helps on that. Here's a question that comes in pretty regularly. We've only got a couple minutes left, so I will try to answer it, but there really is no answer. It's what's the next big social media platform that I should be paying attention to? I don't even know that I would say it's the next big thing, but obviously the thing that's growing the fastest right now is TikTok. So if you're not paying attention to that, if that's something new to you, then hopefully this video will spur you to educate yourself a little bit more on TikTok. But right now, TikTok is the fastest growing thing that's going on out there. I would couple that with Instagram Reels, which is a very similar type feel to TikTok as far as short videos coupled with music, things like that. We're seeing a lot of people have some success with that. You're getting in front of a lot of eyes you're getting in front of a lot of eyes organically or for free, non-paid, in such a way that we haven't really seen that in a while. Facebook and some of these other platforms, you've had to pay money to get in front of a lot of people. With Reels and TikTok, you can still get in front of a lot of people without having to pay money. So that's the biggest thing that's going on right now. So basically, I would say the next big thing, it's hard to tell right now because beyond TikTok, there's a lot of different things that are on the horizon. It's hard to know. And I don't try to sit back and say that I have a crystal ball into what's going to be the next thing. What I would say is to be paying attention to things that kids are using and understand that typically what's happened historically is the teenagers, 14 to 18, they start using certain platforms. And as those platforms gain momentum, they tend to skew up. So then college kids start using them to a certain degree. And then it continues to skew up to parents and things like that. So TikTok right now started as an app called Musical.ly a couple years ago. And then it was bought out and it became TikTok. It was very young, even younger than high school. And it was predominantly people like lip syncing and doing dance routines and things like that. But it's totally changed. If you haven't spent any time on there lately, you see doctors, lawyers, dentists, all sorts of professionals on there now utilizing it. It's not all doing singing and dancing and things like that. You can use it in a very professional way if you choose to do so. But it's skewing up, and now you're seeing a lot of parents and older demos starting to use the platform as well. What I would say is to just pay attention to what platforms are out there and educate yourself. Don't try to predict, don't try to pick a winner, what's going to be the next big thing. Just be conscious of what's going on out there and what platforms or people are using and understand them enough. Even if you don't want to use TikTok in your personal life or the next platform that comes along, be conscious enough of what's out there and understand how people are using it so that if the time it becomes right for you to use it, that you understand it, that you're not educating yourself from square one. Another quick little hack that actually Gary Vee sort of was the one that sort of clued me into this is you can go on to, look at the most downloaded apps. Like you look at the top 20 apps that are being downloaded in iTunes, on your phone, on the phones with regard to Android and or Apple. You can always keep track of what the top 20 apps are and occasionally pop in and check on the top 20 apps and see if there's things that you don't know that are in there. If all of a sudden something starts showing up as the number 4th most downloaded app consistently over a course of a couple of months, it's probably something you should look at and educate yourself about, because if that many people are downloading something, there's a little bit of momentum behind it and maybe something you want to pay attention to. So that's another way without you having to like ask, kids or things like that, hey, what's hot or whatever, and maybe get a variety of different responses that may or may not be accurate. It's pretty hard to miss on just watching what apps are being downloaded and see if anything new is popping up and staying there consistently. If you start seeing something that's in one of the top of those lists as far as apps that are being downloaded, it's probably something to take a look at and at least educate yourself as with regard to what it is and why people are using it. So anyway, I didn't see Tim says Facebook has a quick response that I had to Tint Whistling so I could get leads. Tim, that's what I said. As long as you have a strategy, you're good. But you don't just want to let those messages sit there for hours without being responded to. It sounds like you have an automated strategy, which can work as good as a person responding as well. But you just don't want to leave those sit without any response for hours, or they're just going to cool down and your conversion rate's going to be bad. But you could definitely use automation to your advantage. And it sounds like you're doing that, Tim. So I applaud you for that. I don't see any other active questions. I appreciate you guys tuning in today. I know I'm a little bit over. I got sidetracked on a couple questions that were a little bit more involved than just a quick answer, but I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Hopefully I brought some value to you and with regard to some of these questions so that you can apply it to your business this week and going forward to help your marketing efforts get a little bit better. As always, if you have any questions, you can send them to me at patric@imagnetmgt.com. So iMagnet spelled out just like you see above my head, and then MGT, short for management.com. You can send the questions in. I'd be happy to answer them on next week's episode, or you can always tune in and ask me the questions live. Be happy to answer those. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you guys are going to have a terrific week. You had a great weekend. Hopefully this is going to be a terrific week for you. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. Talk to you soon.